And welcome back to Deliver Me a Podcast. We are so excited. We have author Jenny Hale here with us today to talk to us about her new book and a little bit about her publishing company. Welcome, Jenny. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So just to kick us off, why don't you tell us and our listeners a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to start your company, Harpeth Road Press?
Okay. Well, I began my career as an elementary school teacher. I taught for 18 years in public school. I was a district level educator by the time I left. And I had this crazy idea that I wanted to write a book. And I wrote one and it was horrible and it never saw the light of day. But then I figured out that I could kind of do it. I just needed to know how. So I started to read about how to do it. And long story short, my second book that I ever wrote was contracted and my career started there. And so then I thought I had, hit the moment. You're a published author, you're doing your thing. I quit my teaching job. I was, I'd hit those milestones that I'd wanted for myself. Mm-hmm. But the more I got into the publishing of it, the more I kept telling my publishing team that I really wanted to be around their table. That's where I found the most excitement was around the marketing and the publicity and the PR, all the fun things that come along with that. So the longer I was with it, the more I had real ideas about my branding and how I wanted to, promote myself and all kinds of fun things. And it was more not so much what they were doing as much as it was, I want to hear what you're doing. I want to know the back end of what you're doing. Yeah. Because that's so exciting to me. So 2020 hit and I was sure that the world was ending anyway. So I figured I'm going to write this extra book and I'm going to give it a whirl and I'm going to put it out myself and see how it does. And if it tanks, I will go back to being an author. I've watched American Idol enough to know there are people with dreams that will not realize those dreams.
Right.
It's true, me, but I'm going to give it a whirl. And I did all my own marketing and pulled in the team that I wanted for it. And when I got it all said and done, that book was the #1 new release in clean and wholesome romance on Amazon.com.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I said, I think I've got something here. So I set my publishing team down again and just said, I love you so much that I'm going to go do this myself.
It's a compliment.
And that's how it went, and I still love them. And if I ever published outside of Harpeth Road Press, which is my publishing imprint, I would still publish with them. I would go back to them. They are fabulous. But yeah, I mean, it's been a wonderful journey so far. And we're babies right now. We have 5 books released. Our latest, my Christmas novel, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Yeah. Yes, we will.
I'm curious, what was that first book that you published on your own with Harpeth Road?
The Memory Keeper.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. Okay, well, put it on the list. I have a giant list of books that I'm having to go through. So putting that on there.
What's the significance of the name of your publishing company? Is there a significance to the title?
There is. The Harpeth River runs through the Nashville area. And I wanted my road in this journey, and I'm sure everyone's is like this, as an author, there's never a straight path to publication. Mm-hmm. It's sort of just a hot mess of figuring out where you belong and what you need to do. And then once you get the publishing deal, you have to figure out how in the world to be an author, how to promote yourself and all these things. So I thought, well, what if we took this winding river it ebbs and flows, it's deep, it's shallow, it's fast, it's slow, and straightened it out like a road. And so that's how Harpeth Road Press was formed.
That's brilliant.
I love that.
That's brilliant.
It's very like literary too.
Yeah.
It's
I
very
was
deep.
gonna say poetic in a sense.
Poetic, deep, and literary. It's perfect for an author.
Yeah. So is your publishing company representing other authors, or is it just you at this point?
Yes, we have 2 authors right now who have books out with us. I have a brand new author signed. I have 3 full submissions that I'm looking at now with our team. And then I have another author who is going to meet with me at a later date, probably in a couple of months. And we're going to talk about possible books with us.
Oh, that's awesome.
So when we all finish our novels, we know where to come.
Yes. The 3 of us enjoy writing. We have all these big ideas and dreams, novels. We were friends with
few notes.
a few notes. We're friends with, I don't know if you've heard of her or know her, Rachel Fordham. So she was with Revel Publishing, Baker House Books, etc. And so we met her actually during the pandemic in 2020. We interviewed her just as we're interviewing you, and we talked about her book that was releasing, and she's like, you girls need to write books. And so she's been like this inspirational muse, if you will. So
that's wonderful. And one of the things that I did too with Harpeth Road is I put my educator hat back on, and I gave publishing structure and being an author structure. And so I have lessons for authors on every single step of the publishing process. Nice. So when you go into edits, you get a full lesson on here's what you're looking at. This is what it looks like. This is why we do it. And then it goes on for every single step so that there's no just deer in headlights moment.
Right.
That is so important because there are so many potential deer in headlight moments that are just and you get blindsided.
Ideas about how to do it. There's I think it's so important, 1, to be transparent, and 2, to give the author the why. Like, why are we doing this? Because if you have the why, a lot of times it makes a lot of sense to you. And then you say, oh, okay, well, I'll give this my everything then. Little things like synopsis. I hate writing synopses. I don't think there's an author out there that does like writing it, but it's very helpful when I'm pitching to TV and film, foreign rights, all of those places, to have the author's view of what their book is about. Because then I can go in and filter it and, spruce it up with some sparkle here and there about what I know might be marketable. But writing a synopsis is the worst thing ever. I hate to do it. I was like, I can't believe I'm working for myself and I'm still writing a synopsis. I still have to do it. But it's helpful. And so once the author understands why, then it's not so much of a task because they're thinking, oh, well, she's going to take this to film agents. Let me really write this up well. So I think that's a lot of it for me too, is just giving the authors the background as to what's going on in the publishing.
Yeah. I love that. I love the fact that you're teaching alongside of these authors, because I know for me, so I studied English in college and I did a lot of the creative writing courses and journalism and all the things. 2 classes I didn't take: writing for publication and technical writing. Ironically enough, I work in technical writing. So I was like, well, my advisor was wrong there. But, with the ideas of having the book, it's like, for me, I get analysis paralysis. Like, oh my goodness, I have to write so many words. And then what happens from there? And so I love that you are taking, authors and alongside the journey of this is how the process works to get your book published. And here's the why behind it. And education is so important for everybody, especially when you're releasing your baby into the world.
Yes. And also I think it helps that I myself, I'm the director of the publishing imprint, but I also am an author. I've been in the weeds. I hate writing first drafts. I do not do well with them. It's like everything I've got in my soul to get that thing down on a first page. And then once I'm done, then I can play with it. Right. So I understand that there are areas of writing that are going to feel really difficult for the author. And that's one perk of having, a publisher who's done it herself, because then I can say, well, I get that 100%, or, let's extend this time. If this is the part that you don't love, let's give you a couple extra weeks on that, and support you in that way. So I think having an author lead the pack is also an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of people do kind of think that writing is supposed to be easy and it's just going to like flow out and be wonderful, but it's not. It's hard work, even for the seasoned writers.
Yes. I mean, I've done it 21, 22 times, and I still have that moment of panic when I open up a clean document and I'm like,
staring at
my gosh, can I do this again and do something different that's going to knock people's socks off? That's what I always try to tell my kids when my kids are like, can I have Cheetos? And I'm like, I'm in there like, like this. And I'm like, 5 minutes, and they're like, why? And I'm like, because the words that I'm writing right now have to be best-selling words, not just words, best-selling words.
Right.
And so that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
I wonder if my kids would get that. Can I get away with telling my kids that?
Love it. So what would you say was the most challenging aspect of starting your own publishing company? I know it sounds like you started it kind of pandemic era, so I'm sure that was a challenge in itself.
Yes. I mean, it was and it wasn't, in that everything was canceled. I had no soccer practice. I had no baseball practice.
Fair.
I had after school stuff. My mom duties shrunk to this much, other than homeschooling my children, which was a whole other endeavor. But I mean, having been a teacher, that was also a lot easier for me. I could whip stuff up in a second and do that with them. So there were moments where they were doing schoolwork on the floor of my office while I was building the company. And so that was interesting in its own way. But I guess the biggest challenge for me were those early days. Like, how do I get people to know who we are and trust who we are? And so, when I started out, I also thought it took me a while to say, trust your gut and do your thing. Right. So when I first started, I got a designer for our website, and it was kind of what I wanted, and she did awesome. I mean, she was a wonderful designer, but like, I couldn't quite figure out where I fit, and, trying to get things the way I wanted, and trying to find people, because I had lovely, wonderful people offering me books, but I wasn't taking them. And I was like, I'm not taking these amazing stories, but I got this kind of idea of what I want to publish, and honing that in. And so it took 5 books to be published. Well, probably about 4 before I started to see a vision. And I thought, okay, put the teacher hat back on. How do I tell people what we need as a publisher? How do I teach them who we're looking for? And that's when this idea for this, I'm doing like a 6-week get to know you party for readers and writers. And I've been putting content out left and right to sort of shape who we are and let people know, hey, if you've got what we're looking for, send it our way. And submissions are amazing now. So I think the hardest part is that beginning stage where you're like, hi, I've never published a thing in my life. Would you like to publish with me? I published
the trust factor.
But now I can say we published 5 books. All of them have hit subcategory, lists. All of them have been successful in their own right. We've signed a film shopping agreement for our brand new author who had no platform. She started from scratch. Foreign rights have been sold for 2 of our novels in Estonian and German rights. So we're getting there, and I think it takes a little time to build up that promise to readers and writers.
Yeah. I really have to commend you, because, so many people out there, they have these visions of these things they want to do, but you actually went out there and you made it happen, and it is being successful. And I just think that is so, so wonderful to see people who can actually do that.
Thank you. Well, my uncle came to visit, and he took a look at I have a binder that shows my age. I do have it in digital files as well, but I have it in a binder so that I can reference it while I'm publishing. But it's basically our entire program printed, and it goes. I could hand it to someone and say, "Here, go publish a bestseller." It has everything. And it's all branded, logoed, ready to go, so that the minute I hire someone for something, I have a full on, here's how you do it. Here's how Harpeth Road manages it. And so my uncle's looking through this and he's like, you have like this determined grit like your dad. And he was like, this didn't just happen. You absolutely built it and made it happen. And my dad is very much like that. And I never saw myself as like my dad, because he's not necessarily a super creative. I mean, he kind of is, but not super creative. But I see it. I see the work ethic. And I think it takes two things to be successful. I'm learning. One is to have that work ethic. That's just like, I will work around the clock. And the only way to do that is to really enjoy it. And then the second part is to have the vision, to have the solid vision and be able to execute that vision. Those are the two sides that I think have to be present. So luckily, the vision I had is a vision that other people, enjoy. Yeah. So hopefully they'll, come our way, but we're on our way.
Yeah. Do you have any like specific plans for the future of Harpeth Road?
Only just to slowly and methodically build our list, so that my goal is to create our own sort of brand. I want people to know exactly what they're going to get with Harpeth Road, but within that have a very diverse group of titles within that overarching brand. And so my goal is to sort of create this like cult following of readers who love that kind of book. So like I said, I don't want them all to be the same, but almost like when you go into a bookstore and you go to that shelf, that one shelf that you're like, I'm always going to take that shelf. I want to be that shelf for readers.
Nice.
So that's my building block, is how do we continue to choose the perfect books, formulate that shelf.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about that new book. Can you share a little bit about the Christmas letters and the inspiration behind it? I'm particularly interested in who inspired Paul. Well, I got to have a reason for my background. So
The Christmas letters was one of those books that the first draft I was pulling my hair out, and then once I got it together, and got through the sleepless nights of it, then I really saw it and could really build on it. And so I just felt like I wanted a book. Well, my original start to this story was, I was sitting at my desk thinking, all right, I have to write another Christmas book. What am I going to write? What's a cool thing to write now? And the idea of like the Prince Charming and this like rich guy, and he sweeps you off your feet. And it hit me like, what if that's not all it's cracked up to be? Like, what if Prince Charming kind of isn't great? And that started the first scene of the book, that she's like with this really wealthy guy. They're in New York. She's at the plaza. She's in a ball gown. She's, dripping in jewels, and she's going into this super swanky party, and they're breaking up right then. And so that sort of, I flipped the romance on its end there. And then that's what began the story. And so I wanted someone in Paul that was just the polar opposite of that who was quiet but deliberate, and had his own sort of insecurities about being who he was and making the right choices and proving that he was worthy of the job he was doing, and but he's kind of burnt out and all that. So I sort of I didn't have any specific person in mind when I wrote him, but I just wanted somebody who was the opposite of what we consider our Prince Charming. Like, he's Prince Charming in his own way, in a totally different, realistic, normal way.
Yeah. Versus that's real life.
That fanciful. Like, she actually had the fantasy and chose a different, path after she broke up with him, chapter 1.
Oh, that's so fun. And
He left her. That's every kind of wrong at Christmas.
Right,
Ugh.
right. Well, I didn't want her to like have to do it, so he
Oh
had to
gosh,
do it.
no.
Let's make him the total villain, like
Right.
really wreck everything for her, and her to say, "I don't really think he's the one anyway." You know, he wasn't really who I was expecting him to be anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if you could describe this book in like 5 words or less, I mean, you love synopses, obviously.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
So much fun.
How
5 words or less. Okay. Festive, cozy,
Mhm.
down home, romantic,
we love romance.
We love that one.
family oriented. Because I
Ooh,
think
We love that one too.
there's a whole subset to that story, and all my stories really, that is more about finding out who she is and what makes her strong, and how her family is impacted and how she's impacted by her family.
Mhm. I'm assuming that's where the letters come in.
Yes. So she goes to visit. Gosh, I'm the worst. Another thing too about me that's so weird. It's because I'm real ADD. The minute I download a book out of my brain, the minute I've released it, I forget everything about that.
Like an actor with their lines of scripts, you
Yes.
know, and the plot lines.
Tell you anything about it, and when you've done it 22 times, they all run together.
Right.
So, I'm trying to think. I can't remember the woman's name now, but she goes to visit the best friend of her nan. And that best friend, she's like 90 something, and she can see through her sort of issues. She can tell something's not right, and she has a hunch about what's not right. And she suggests that she read these letters of her grandmother's that were between her and a man during World War II. And so she starts to read these letters, but in the letters, it shakes up everything she knew about her family and everything she knew about who she was and where she came from. And it impacts Paul Dawson, who is the lead hero in the story.
A little mystery and intrigue as well.
Yes, I've been liking to do that lately. So my last few books, especially the ones with Harpeth Road, I've had sort of a mystery within them.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's sort of everything sort of ebbs and changes and flows as I get further into my writing career. And I think too, just trying to make it different and new, you know, throw other things in. But I've been kind of having a little mystery in every single one, or a backstory.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm the mystery queen of the group. So that's why.
And a big stack of letters is really going to appeal to our postables, the fans of Signed, Sealed, Delivered that listen to our show. So that's gonna so they're gonna really be taken in by that aspect of the plot line. I'm already intrigued, and I just read the summary and listened to you. So like, I'm ready. Where is it?
Yes, another one to add to our list.
Add it to the list.
Yes. So speaking of Hallmark, you've had 2 books adapted into Hallmark movies. And for our listeners, that is Coming Home for Christmas, which is starring Danica McKellar and Neil Bledsoe, and then also Christmas Wishes and Mistletoe Kisses, which starred Jill Wagner and Matthew Davis. So I know one question that always comes up when we know, I mean, with any novel that's adapted to a TV show or a movie, what is that creative process like? I mean, you know, obviously it's different for every author and every contract that they have with whatever network it is. So we're just curious, like, what is that process like? Do you have a lot of say? Do you push for a lot of like, hey, listen, we've got to keep her hair red because that is a point in the plot line. Like, we can't change her hair color, okay?
No, can't change red hair ever.
Well, I've explained it before this way because I know there are authors that are very territorial and of their books, like it's their work and they want it portrayed the way they intended.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a weird breed in that I am a creative first, a writer second. I like photography. I like publishing. I like marketing. I like writing. So writing is one piece of it. So for me, what really gets me, Jazz, is seeing how the production company interprets and uses my raw material, because their viewers are different from my readers. So I have no problem at all with any changes they want to make, especially if I trust the network. I mean, you trust the network that they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I haven't hit any moment where I've been like, oh, it's Hallmark. It's not going to, they're not going to do anything to impact my brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
If anything, they're going to just, support it. So I actually really like it. Now, the first book, both books went to two different production companies. Mm-hmm. So the first book was very hands-on. I got to see the script. I still talk to the screenwriter. It was really sort of family oriented and lots of chatting back and forth. And then the second one was a bigger company, and I heard nothing. I mean, I didn't care because it's fine, but I had to go Google when it was coming out, they were just, we got it.
Sayonara.
Again, I mean, to their point, this when they contract it, they're buying that off of me. So it's theirs. It's no longer mine. And, and it's a big company. So I don't think I was first on their agenda,
Right.
But totally fine with it too. And so what I decided was I've got two more books that have been optioned by companies, but there's no network attached to them, right? They're just being shopped around. And those two books, I just wanted to make sure that the things that I found important, I put them in the contract so that I would have them. But I'm not a real stickler on any of it, really. I mean, I'd love to be able to go to the set and see them shoot it. I've yet to. The first movie that they would have let me go, and I was moving to Nashville during the shooting, so I didn't get to go see it shot. And then the next one, I wasn't involved in that one. So I was like, okay, I've got to, if we've got another one going, I've got to get to set and see,
at least once,
and see it being shot. I mean, come on. So, that's important to me, but otherwise they have full creative control of my novels, and I'm okay with that. I actually enjoy it. It's fun.
That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective from you as an author, because I know for me as a viewer and as a reader, sometimes I'm a book purist. Sometimes I'm a book purist. I mean, it's when I am watching something that I've already read, it's very hard for me to release the original work and watch the movie or TV show for what it is. It's just, I don't know. I've always loved reading as a kid, and I've always this is, you're soaking up all the details. And I know they can't put 300 pages into a 90-minute movie. So you have to cut a bunch of stuff, but man, it's interesting because, for me, it's a lot harder. And I'm just a reader, right? I'm a consumer of this work. So, in a sense, it almost makes me feel a little better to hear you say, hey, you know what? They're good. Creative process, creative control.
I mean, and that's the chance they take when they say, let's make this change because we feel our viewers will prefer this, or that it will best suit our viewers. That's the risk that they take in changing it too, and I agree with you. I mean, I know as a reader, when I go see a movie based on a book and it's different, I'm like, what? It takes me a minute to sort of, but I also think that as long as the major elements are in place, as long as they keep the major feeling and theme of the book, a lot of their viewers are not necessarily my readers. So that's why I am interested to see what they do. It's more of a, let's all hang out and let me see your creative process. For me, I just enjoy the back end of everything.
Yeah.
Well, and then those viewers can then become new
Oh,
readers.
That's
Yes.
right.
And you can say, hey, guess what? The book is totally different.
Definitely.
Do that.
Ooh,
I'm gonna go check that out.
So before we get to our fun rapid fire questions, one thing we always like to ask our authors, and you've kind of already shared a few pieces of advice, but what is like maybe one of the most important pieces of advice you would give to somebody who is an aspiring writer?
I think it's a balance of trusting your gut and trusting the experts. So if you are with an agent or a publisher you absolutely trust, you should trust their decisions, trust their guidance. But also there's an element of you that you should trust as well. And so I got to where I got to by trusting wholeheartedly my publishing company. Not my publishing company, Book a Tour, that I was with.
Oh, yeah.
Trusted every single decision they made, whether I agreed with it or not, until my gut told me, go try it yourself. And that's when I went on and did my own thing. And so I think there's a balance there of trusting. I had to be with them or I'd never be doing what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I had to trust them and learn from them. And I'm still learning from them. I mean, I'm still got the little eyes like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing with that? And I think that those two things are what made me who I am in the business that I'm working in.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, there's a balance of the two.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, especially as creatives, like I know this wholeheartedly, just with my background and stuff, it's hard to let go. And it's hard to get that I don't want to even say criticism, but just like the feedback, even if it's minor, it's like, oh, but it's my baby.
And we're all creatives are very sensitive people, and I think that's what I had to, I had a really great team behind me, but that's what I had to understand is that their goal is to make me a success. That's their goal. And if I trusted them enough to go to contract with them, I have to trust their vision to get me there. And so I trusted it all the way up. Like I said, it was only when my gut started to tell me, maybe you might know something too. Yeah. And that's when I didn't just cut it off. You know what I mean? Like I still dipped my toe in the water first.
Right.
With that trust remaining with the people who built me. I think that's the key, is just trusting the right people, but also trusting yourself as well. And you can do it. And when they give you feedback, know that you're good enough to fix it.
Right. I was gonna say, one of the last authors we had on, she said something very similar. She said, it's your book, so you can fight for things, but if everyone's telling you the same thing, trust them as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They've been in it for so long. And, and I'm finding that as a publisher too, to explain to people. And again, that's part of the transparency and giving the why, behind it. But there's a strong understanding in the publishing community of what sells and what's, great. And so there's that fine line as an author where you have to decide, how important is this change to me? Is it worth sales? Possible sales, possible success. Is it worth it? Yes or no? And, I've taken things to just I'll scrap 50,000 words though. If somebody tells me, I'm like, okay, delete, let's start again. And but like I said, I'm a weird one, but I think that's understanding that it is a hard decision to make as an author. And part of what you have to know is that you're strong enough as a creative to decide that. What is this that I'm going to change? And is it impactful enough for me to throw a fit over it or to trust them with it?
Wow.
Well, and then trusting your own ability that if it's not working, that you can fix it. That I think that is vital information right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the biggest epiphany for me when I went into my own publishing is I had to learn to go with my gut and to trust it. Because when I would have these gut feelings, there were outside people giving me feedback that were not, it was making me question my gut feelings. But when there became a moment where I just said, I'm not listening to any of that noise, I'm going to do it my own way. And when I did it, I found success because I trusted my gut. And then I'm not saying I'm always finding success. When I failed at something, then I learned like, okay, what do I need to do to fix this, to change it for the next time?
Right.
Yeah. You're making me want to break out in a Frank Sinatra song. I did it my way.
I think if everybody did things their way, we would have a pretty awesome world. That's what I think. If everyone was allowed to do what they really wanted to do and follow their gut and nobody told them not to, I think we would have a very different world.
Interesting perspective. I don't think that I've ever heard that before. So, speaking of following the gut, is your gut working on any upcoming projects you can tease?
Oh, yes. I'm about 58,000 words into my summer book already. That's coming out with Harpeth Road Press. And it has 2 love stories. One, the main one is set in right now, so it may change because this is draft 1, but right now it's in Rodanthe, North Carolina, because I'm from Virginia and we used to vacation in the Outer Banks. And the secondary love story is in the 1960s. And it's set in Fairhope, Alabama, which is the tiniest town. I was there. We stayed at that inn. And my husband, we were actually going to a baseball tournament for my son. And my husband took a detour and said, you've got to go see this little town for your writing. You've got to go see it. And sure enough, we spent one night. We had the kids with us baseball gear. We stayed at that inn for one night. And I jotted down all kinds of mental images and then came back. And the 1960s love story is in Fairhope.
Okay. It has, I'm in Pensacola. So it's like over the state line. And it's been a while. It's been actually a couple of years since we've gone through Fairhope. But now I am inspired to go. I'm kind of like, Dan, we need to go to Fairhope now. Go take a walk down the streets. Cause it is such a cute little town.
I think I would retire there. I think I would just pack it up and retire there. It's so lovely.
Yeah, it's super cute, and they have like the inn, and there's the water over there. We got lost, and so we ended up that way. We're going somewhere, but yeah, I'm really inspired to go to Fairhope now.
It's so adorable. I mean, we just went like it was maybe a year ago, and I mean, just all the water is lined with porch swings. And like the inn has all the like outdoor croquet and cornhole and all the fun things for the kids, and we could sit and drink wine while they're tossing frisbees or whatever. Oh my gosh. I'll cash it all in tomorrow.
That is the perfect town for Southern charm for sure.
Yes.
Put it on my bucket list.
Yes, do. It's so lovely.
After Texas, Jess.
That's right.
Missed opportunity. We could have all gone to Fairhope last year when you visited me.
Dang it.
Well, I mean, as you know, there's plenty of cute little towns down here. So if you need a scout, I volunteer as tribute. So I mean,
I'll be your Texas scout.
More than happy to, drive along 30A and find the little.
I have books set in 30A. I love 30A. That's my other favorite place.
Boy.
So fun. So fun. Well, to round us off, we have some fun rapid fire questions that we love asking our authors. So the first one is, are you a pantser or a plotter?
I'm a little bit of both in that, I mean, for years I was under contract for my publishing company. But then when I created my own, I still need that structure of knowing. I mean, I've got foreign rights agents asking for things, so I still write that synopsis. We talked about that.
Yeah.
So I kind of write out a synopsis, but then as I change the book, like as I write it and I get to know characters, little things might tweak and change, and then I'll just go in and fix my synopsis as I go. So I'm kind of a little bit of both. More though a plotter, I'd say. But I don't have like rooms of sticky notes or anything. It's real weird. Sort of like all in my head.
No giant whiteboard with everything mapped out.
No, and I am not hating on that. Anybody who wants to do that, it's glorious. I don't know, it all stays in my head. I'll write notes at the bottom of my Word document if like I'll be like, don't forget to go to the birthday party or things like that. So then I can come back and be like, oh yeah, they're supposed to go on Tuesday, but I'll go write the scene.
Yeah. What is your go-to writing snack?
Coffee. I think that, I went to the doctor for brain fog and she said, you don't have brain fog, you have rampant ADD. So she said, your attention is just crazy all over the place. But she was like, being a creative, I'd be careful about, how you manage that. So she was like, if you can manage your life without doing anything, to combat it, go for it because your ideas will flow a little faster, So I don't take anything for it, but I think the caffeine is a slight self-medication so that when I drink a cup of coffee, that caffeine, I am like, just zeroed in for like 2 hours. I have to have a coffee shop because if I'm at my house, I think about unloading the dishwasher and the dog begs just unmercifully and makes me feel so guilty the whole time that I can't focus. And so I have all of these things in my house. So if I go to a coffee shop and have 1 cup of coffee, I can get all my words done in 2 to 3 hours sometimes.
Nice.
But during the pandemic, I would have to, like, every time the kids would interrupt me, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I need a cup of coffee. And I would do that. I was drinking like 5 cups of coffee. I had to bring it down, because I was like putting on the pandemic weight and just down in the coffee all day long.
Oh, man.
So I try to keep it 1 to 2 in a day.
Yeah. What's the best time to write for you? Obviously, when the kids are home.
Yeah, right. And they're awesome. They're so good to me. They're so awesome. But I would say it used to be the early morning, and still sometimes it is. But now that I'm doing the publishing, it's like that's the creative that I do first in the morning. And so I tend to find that if I just hold out, I always set a time during the day to do it, but my favorite time is once everybody's in bed and it's just quiet and I've already downloaded and done all the stuff of the day. So then, and nobody's emailing me, every normal person is done working, they're all in bed, glasses of wine or whatever. And I'm over here like, but that's when I get the most solid focus.
Yeah. I think you're one of the first people, at least that I've talked to, that says night. Lots of other people have been like first thing in the morning when your brain is fresh. And I'm like,
that's me too.
I used to be first thing in the morning, but I think what's happened is the creativity that I'm focused on has turned to the publishing side.
Yeah.
That's the newest creativity for me. So the one that I have to learn the fastest, whereas the writing I've done enough times that I feel confident doing it. So I think that's all that happened is that now I have a different creative in the morning. It's still my most creative time. But the writing, because after a while you start to get like, okay, I know when to bring this in and what's going on here. And so it's more of a just focus issue at night, which is why. So I totally get the morning. Totally.
Makes sense. What's the most difficult part of the writing process?
Draft 1. First draft. I feel like once I get the story down, even if it's a hot mess, even if it's got like holes and stuff in it, then when I have a draft, I can go in, it's like decorating. You just go, it's like having this empty room and you just decorate it. I can go in and I can edit it. I can add in things. I can pull in scenery. And that's when I get to do all the fun stuff and build out those characters because I've sort of hashed out who they are. So the first draft for me is the hardest. And some books are harder than others.
Best way to combat writer's block.
Okay. So I was very excited to hear that my strategy is also used by Nicholas Sparks. I went to see him and he said this, and I was like, oh, I do that. I do that. And I, like, I do it. So I know everybody tells you it's all over online. Just get the book written, right? Just get the book written, get the book written. But they don't tell you that, like, you can't get the book written if you can't get past a certain spot. So
Yes.
myself and Nicholas Sparks, what we do is I go to the beginning and I just start reading it. And that's what happened with the summer book. It's flowing like wine, but I got to the ending and there were some things I needed to tie up that I didn't think were really fleshed out. And I was struggling for how to get it there. So I just stopped at 58,000 words and I started at the prologue and I just started reading and editing, reading and editing, reading and editing. And what I'm basically doing is developmentally editing my novel.
Right.
And I'm adding in, but it's solidifying where I need them to be at the end. So with the general knowledge of what I want at the end, I can go in and just add things, and it's releasing my writer's block.
Sure.
The ending by going back through the beginning.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
That makes that makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to like interrupt this really quick, but which part is the hardest for you? Is it the beginning? Is it the end? Is it the sagging middle?
The quicksand of the middle. So for me, the beginning, now this book, like I said, flowed like wine, and I just got to the ending. I was like, I don't have what I need at the ending to tie it up. So I'm going to go back to the beginning and work through it. But sometimes, most of the time, I can write a beginning like that. I can get through 20,000 words in a day or two, just ideas. When I say a day or two, not actually writing it, but like the ideas of what I need to write, done. Then the middle, I start to get quicksandy around 50,000 words. And then right about 60 or 70, I come back out of it and I can write the ending. So there's that little chunk in the middle that usually I'll just get it down and then I'll go back in and I'll have to rewrite some things in there. But the summer book, I managed to get all the way to 58,000. It was just the end that I needed to help. And every book's different. I mean, the Christmas letters turned out to be an amazing story that I'm so proud of, but writing it was just like pulling teeth, that first draft. So it just depends.
You know, it's really funny that you would say that because I've caught myself doing the same thing. Like, I'm stuck. I'm going to go back and read. Like, oh, so I knew it sounded familiar.
It was a natural thing, I think, to say, okay, let's go back and read the words we wrote and hash it out. And there were characters that weren't in the beginning that I needed in the beginning to make the ending work. And so now they're in the beginning. I went back and wrote them in. So I think it's just but every book is different too. It just depends on where you are in the book. Sometimes a walk will help me with writer's block. If I just stop, and go out and do something totally different and come back to it, I'll have a new perspective.
Favorite childhood book?
Oh my gosh. I mean, when I was a kid, I read all the like Sweet Valley High stuff. That was a jam. But I will say, as a kid, I mean, when I had my own babies, I loved like the rhythmic Goodnight Moon. And I actually bought 3 copies of the board book Goodnight Moon because my kids like just wore it down to nothing. And I had to go buy another one, and then I bought like a 4th one just for us, like to keep so that later we'd have a nice one
on the shelf.
So that was a really good one, a really fun one for my kids and a good one for me.
What are you currently reading for fun?
Oh, submissions?
Hey.
Fair.
So one of the things that's really weird about me too is that if I read fiction, especially in my genre, it's like the author's construction speaks to me and I get distracted and think, oh, I have a new idea for my story. And I go write it, even though it has nothing to do with what I read. It just is like, it's like if you're in Spain and you're speaking Spanish and then all of a sudden all the Spanish comes back to you. That's what happens when I read fiction. So my reading choices, outside of submissions have been like nonfiction, really boring stuff, because I don't get distracted from it. I can just read it and learn from it, and so I read a lot of nonfiction. But I will say that I have on my list right now, I was at the Nicholas Sparks signing, so I got Dreamland. He signed it. I've got that on the shelf. I've got Rayanne Thane's All Is Bright on my shelf right now. That's a new one that's out. And then I am reading one, actually. I'm finishing up The Shell Collector by Nancy Nagel. I was doing that on audio. So I've got both paperback and audio, depending on where I am with that one.
Yeah.
But I was listening to that on my trip to visit my parents. So
nice.
I'll need to come back around to that one.
Yeah.
Since we're entering the Christmas season, what is the best Hallmark Christmas movie?
Oh gosh,
I only have like 1,000.
We saved the hardest questions for the end. Don't worry.
2 of them are mine.
You're allowed to say your own. I
would have to say, Coming Home for Christmas, no slight to Christmas Wishes, because it's amazing, but only because it was my very first one. And I felt like I learned so much about Hallmark and what they put out with that. I felt like it really gave me a nice perspective of their programming. I really thought they did a great job with it.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe this question will be a little bit easier. Best Hallmark non-Christmas movie?
Oh, I liked the Chesapeake Shores stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Not technically a movie, but we'll let it slide.
And partly too, one of the things with me too, and I think it's my attentional issues, is I get like this much of TV time in a day, like this much. And so it's been a while too since I've actually sat down and like cuddled up. So this Christmas, I need to just get my fix and like pop popcorn and get into it and do it.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've actually been able to sit and enjoy like a whole movie. It's been a long time. So my answer is probably dated and not exactly brilliant.
Hey, it's all good. Yeah,
but
no,
the watchers will have lots to tell me.
We'll let Chesapeake Shore slide.
Yes.
Throw in the suggestions. People watching, throw in their suggestions and I'll pick something.
There you go. Okay. Comment suggestions. Let her watch.
Yeah. I mean, we get 30 suggestions here.
Yeah. Because like I said, usually when I watch TV, it's like right before I go to sleep, and then I never make it. I fall asleep in like 10 or 15 minutes. I never make it to the whole thing, partly because I'm writing still into the weed night, in both the publishing and the writing. So it's a weird time in my life.
Yeah.
Never in front of the television.
Totally understand that. I mean, if I'm going to give a suggestion, I always suggest these two to people who either they need something to watch or they want something cozy. How to Fall in Love.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
So basically, it's kind of the ugly duckling turned swan kind of trope, but the guy is the ugly duckling.
Oh, I love it.
It's super fun. And then the other one is that one's more comedy. I would say that's definitely more rom-com.
Okay.
The other one is maybe more like drama-ish, but not like heavy drama. It's just not as funny, but it's good. It's Loving Leia.
Oh, that's swoony.
Leaa.
Swoony.
That one is very romantic, swoony, and that one is about a girl. She's Orthodox Jew, and it's almost like a marriage of convenience type of trope. So, both set in modern times. It's my go-to when I need something to just like detox from the day and I'm feeling a certain way. If I feel comedy, I will put on How to Fall in Love. If I'm feeling a little sappy, I will put in Loving Leia.
Love it. I haven't. I wrote them down. So
I
have 2 on my list now.
There you go.
Through it without falling asleep. No, not saying anything about the show itself. It's totally me. I can't ever do it. But
so there are 2 Christmas movies that I highly suggest.
Okay.
One is Once Upon a Christmas Miracle.
Karen Shaler. Did she write that? Or no?
No,
No.
don't believe so.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. We just interviewed her last week, so
Yeah.
but it's based on a true story
Oh,
of a military man who gives a perfect stranger, because her family put out a campaign and ads everywhere, and he donated half his liver to this woman who was dying.
oh.
And then they fall in love, and it's such a
Oh,
story.
that's amazing.
I told these two, I said, my brother, the football player, got misty-eyed during this one. So and then the other one is brand new from this summer. It came out as a Christmas in July movie, My Grown-Up Christmas List.
Oh, I love that title.
Yeah, Kevin McGarry and Kayla Wallace. They're kind of Hallmark Channel's it happening couple right now, because they're a couple in real life. And so you put them together, and it was there were fireworks, in my opinion.
I love it. Those are great. Yes.
I'm staying upright for this, you guys. I'm staying upright. I won't melt yet.
Well, Jenny, it has been such a pleasure to have you on with us today. Do you have any social media websites that you would like to share for our listeners to connect with you and follow your work?
Yes. So I have two websites, www.itsjennyhale.com. That's my author website. And then www.harpethroad.com. That's my publisher website. The publisher's socials are all at Harpeth Road. The author ones are at J Hale Author, except for Facebook. That's at Jenny Hale Author, I think, or Jenny. I didn't get that one, the J Hale Author. Yeah. I had taken that one or something. I don't know.
Awesome. Well, make sure to follow Jenny on social media, check out those websites, and grab a copy of the Christmas letters. It released earlier this month, so it should be available in stores, on Amazon, and all those websites. And thank you again, and we'll see everyone next time.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Jenny.